Hi again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for Swipe Out Hunger's 2023 Year in Review Town Hall, where we are so excited to launch our impact report from fiscal year 2023. Thank you all for being here, and we will get started and jump into things. Thank you for your patience as we got set up. Again, this is being recorded, so you all will get a link to the recording afterwards as well, and feel free to share it too with your networks. But let's jump into things here. Okay, so we first wanted to share our special guest speaker today, Dr. Rashida Crutchfield. She is an associate professor at the School of Social Work at California State University, Long Beach, and executive director for the Center for Equitable Higher Education, which is a research center dedicated to studying and promoting economic, food, and housing justice. Rashida is also a member of Swipe Out Hunger's board of directors. We're very lucky to have her, and is an advocate who is committed to amplifying the voices of marginalized communities through research and service. We are so thankful for Rashida to agreeing to be a guest speaker and sharing her knowledge with us today. Unfortunately, she couldn't join us live, but we do have a recording that she shared, which I am excited to play for you all now. And so Dr. Crutchfield will be giving an overview of sort of the landscape of college student hunger, food insecurity, and student basic needs. And here we go.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rashida Crutchfield, and I'm so pleased to be here as best as I can today with you for this important release of Swipe Out Hunger's Impact Report. I am a board member for SWIPE, and I'm executive director for the Center for Equitable Higher Education, which is a research center that focuses on studying and promoting economic, food, and housing justice for students in higher education. CHE works to ensure public higher education prioritizes student basic needs and implements equitable and effective programs so that students can graduate and achieve the lives they wish for. We do this by partnering with students and faculty and other practitioners to conduct research and evaluation to support those practitioners and policymakers and administrators as they work to implement effective strategies. And we do this while amplifying the voices of students as their own experts of their experience. Many of you have been in the basic needs realm for a long time, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, I want to clarify that when we're talking about basic needs, we're talking about the conditions that are essential for students to survive and thrive. As individuals, as people out in community, we have a right to food, we have a right to housing, but often we are asking people to give up those rights in order to be students because of the cost of living while trying to earn a degree. When we're talking about basic needs, we are talking about these essential needs like housing, food, mental and physical health, as well as financial well-being. We also think about things like hygiene supplies, transportation, and childcare as really essential for students in order for them to show up to class every day and to learn and to grow in educational environments. Just to clarify, when we're thinking about food security, this is defined by the USDA. If I am high food secure, it means that I don't have concern or worry about disruption to my food. So I can make choices about what I eat, and I could have some stress about that, but I know where my next meal is going to come from. So I am food secure. When we're talking about food insecurity, we're talking about low food security and very low food security. We're very careful about using the term hunger because I can be food insecure if I'm eating rice or a cup of noodles to make myself full, but don't have the economic well-being to support nutritionally essential food. But many of our students are missing food, so they are experiencing hunger, are regularly missing meals because they cannot afford to eat. To put this in context, we'll hear from actual students.
I would get bananas and I will cut it in half. I'd eat only half in the morning and then I would wait 5 hours, then eat the other half, just so I have something in my stomach consistently. I would struggle to concentrate for sure, but because that's all I could think about was where my next meal was going to come from.
Susan is a student from Cal State Dominguez Hills, and she, like many students, are finding unfortunate and creative ways to stretch food as long as possible just so they have something to eat every day. When we're talking about homelessness, we're talking about students that lack a fixed, regular, and adequate place to stay. And for some of our students, that means they're sleeping in cars, sleeping in shelters, sleeping in places not meant for human habitation. But for many of our students, they're couch surfing or moving from place to place. This is a traumatic experience. Not knowing where you're going to sleep the next day and trying to figure that out on a regular basis is like having a full-time job.
Friends' couches, a couple nights in my car. Thankfully, it was warm enough to where I'm not freezing to death in them. But when I stayed at a certain friend's house and her roommate was kind of getting annoyed that I was there, I didn't want to overstay my welcome. And I had left that day before showering. And so it really hit me like I don't have a place to shower. Something I would never want to wish upon anybody to go through.
Elizabeth from Fresno State is like a lot of students who had some savings and had a financial aid package, but was pushed out of where she was living because the owner sold the property where she was staying, and she didn't have any extra funds to weather that emergency. So she was couch surfing and living in her car on a regular basis. We with CHE are shifting the narrative, thinking about student basic needs as student human rights. As much as we know that having this terminology is really new and it's important. Student basic needs wasn't something that we were talking about even in 2015. But now it seems like this language is definitely integrated into higher education, into the lexicon. But we also have opportunity to think about how we can reframe this idea of the needy student. Students with needs can be viewed like individual clients, and their families and larger communities can be ignored. Needs are viewed as problems versus inequitable, unaffordable, racist, unjust systems or structures. It's very easy to focus in on serving one needy student rather than getting at the systemic challenges that we face in higher education and out in our society. Focus on individuals can perpetuate anti-Black and racist paradigms, and it's much easier for us as institutions or people within institutions to disengage, arguing that we're not social service providers if we're not thinking about our role in making sure that students have their rights met. 3 things that you should know is that there are high levels of unmet student basic need in higher education. And students cannot achieve to graduation if we don't address basic needs or student human rights. And there are important efforts underway to meet student basic needs, and there's more work to be done. In California community colleges, we know that about 50% of students experience food insecurity, 60% of students experience housing insecurity, and 19% of students report homelessness. In our 4-year California State University institutions, 42% of our students experience food insecurity. Now, the CSU has almost 480,000 students in California. So consider those statistics, and 11% experience homelessness. Nationally, this is an issue that's consistent with what we're seeing in California. 39% of students across the nation experiencing food insecurity and 17% experiencing homelessness. Student basic need insecurity is an equity issue. Food and housing insecurity is highest amongst students of color, Pell-eligible students, parenting students, and first-generation students. And yet they persevere.
Saving money for my kids so they don't have to go through this. Unfortunately, I can't change anything about my situation, but hopefully I can change the pattern for the future.
We hope to support students like Lenore, who is working for her children, and we can work for her. Students need to be healthy, safe, and have a sense of belonging before they can focus on their academics. Research has been telling us this. Students have been telling us this. We have to act.
It affects my studying if I don't know where I'm going to go. Where am I studying? Or am I concentrating on studying because I'm not worried about where I'm going to go?
In our role with the Center for Equitable Higher Education, we're conducting research and evaluation to make sure that those funds that are invested in basic needs are meeting students where they're needed most. Right now, we're doing a study of California community colleges to understand the through points, the facilitators, and the barriers between students and getting access to basic needs programs and services. We're also doing a 3-year evaluation of a program called College Focused Rapid Rehousing, which is addressing homelessness for students in California. There are many programmatic responses happening across the country, and each campus is delivering or responding to students in many different ways. But some of the elements that we find nationally are mirrored by some of the things that we have at our campus at Cal State Long Beach. So across the country, we're seeing campus pantries meeting the needs of students, and Swipe Out Hunger supporting those pantries across the country. Also, clearly the signature Swipe food matching or reallocating funds, student meal plan funds for students, is also really making important efforts for our students. SNAP, or what we in California, CalFresh, is one opportunity for students. SNAP is colloquially what we call food stamps. And there's a lot of policy work that Swipe has led and others across the country have led to really try to clear the path to ensure that students get access to SNAP benefits. And there's more to say, that there's more to come. Meal assistance programs, emergency housing, emergency grants have become a critical tool for students, as well as I mentioned, rapid rehousing or other housing programs. There are lots of implications, and that's where this impact report is so important, because there's lots of things for us to think about and lots of ways that Swipe is leading the charge in addressing these issues for our students. We have to think about systems, about structural racism and oppression in order to undermine and unpack these social issues. It's important for us to interrogate the frame that we use, where we focus in on problems, the words that we use, the research questions, the investments that we make. This impact report is definitely going to show you how Swipe is embracing a justice narrative and turning with and for students as partners and leaders, broadening networks for partnerships and funders, for our common focus to address food and housing and basic needs and security. Thank you so much for allowing me to be here with you. Have a wonderful day.
Awesome. Thank you so much to Dr. Crutchfield for sharing her knowledge and expertise with our community today and giving that really helpful context as we share our impact report. And I am excited to pass it off to our executive director, Jamie Hansen, who's going to give an overview of our impact report from this year. And Jamie, feel free to take it away.
I know anyone on the call who gets to work with boards is super jealous that I have Dr. Crutchfield on my board. She's an incredible force for good. The research that the team is doing at CHE is helping elevate this issue across the sector, and of course is bringing so much light to the mission and vision of ending college student hunger. So thank you, Rashida. So let's dive into this impact report, shall we? I am excited to share a lot about the work that we've been doing over the last year. I started at Swipe Out Hunger in August of 2022, coming behind the brilliant and charismatic founder, Rachel Sumick, who's here with us on the call today. Hi, Rachel. And in addition to leadership transition at this level, we also had transition at the board chair level. So big thanks to Libby Jacobson, who led me in my first year at Swipe Out Hunger. And congratulations to David. You are absolutely the perfect partner as we continue to grow and evolve. I'd like to dive into the meaty stuff. Let's get into this programs business. You're going to hear from Sydney and Zoe, and they're going to go into a little bit more detail about programs and advocacy, but let me just hit on some of these high points. So you might have heard about this thing where we acquired College and University Food Bank Alliance in November of 2021, which means the majority of last fiscal year, the programs team was focused on reimagining our impact. We went from roughly 140 campuses at the end of 2021, about 400, and now we're at 600 plus, like a lot plus. And it doesn't seem to be slowing down. So the team is constantly looking at how can we provide high value to our campuses, which of course goes into one of the ways we support campuses and therefore the students involved. So an example of a value add for our campuses that are in our network, the 600 plus, I'm going to say it over and over again because it's so shocking, is through our corporate partnerships or partnerships in general, our coalitions. We had a really big lift this last fiscal year, and the programs team did an incredible job creating new policies, processes, systems, communication channels, everything. And that is distributing 100 plus LG refrigerators. So 100 different campuses received these refrigerators. And the intent was, how can we bring more nutritious food to the students on those campuses? We know that high protein, or produce in general needs to be adequately stored in order to be healthy and have access for those students. So those refrigerators were a pretty big element. In addition to the refrigerators, LG also provided the funds to fill those refrigerators. It was, again, a big lift. It was a pilot year. It was the first time we'd done something at this scale. And it was a wonderful success, in our opinion, and I hope all the campuses on the call can agree. In advocacy, you all know that we track policies nationwide. That anything that helps students succeed, we're on it, specifically in that student basic needs framework. So dollars committed through the Hunger-Free Campus legislation that we penned in 2017, as well as other student basic need legislation, these issues we wanted to highlight, these policies we wanted to highlight because it shows the localized resources that campuses can use to fight hunger today and tomorrow. We know that students experiencing hunger and those pantries and basic needs hub and meal swipes that are provided on the campus help them today. And we're really concerned about the student coming in tomorrow. What kind of services can we put into play? What kind of policies can we shore up so that those students tomorrow can also feel supported? Also in advocacy, we expanded the Hunger-Free Campus to 9 states. Zoe, you can see here, she's the National Field Manager. You're gonna hear from her in a moment. I'm giving them all the shout out. Her and Julia Ruth and Rob Friedlander on our advocacy team did an incredible job. We expanded Hunger Free Campus to 9 states. It was introduced in another 12. And this is really interesting because as you're looking at the map, you'll recognize that those states are very different from one another. This is a bill that garners interest from both sides of the aisle. And one of the states I want to call out is Oregon. Oregon is a great example of what our advocacy team does outside of a legislative session. And here's an area that we might not think often about. So Oregon, supported by our team, has been doing a ton of movement building. That's where the students are getting engaged in the policy itself. They also decided to increase SNAP access for students in higher education by reinterpreting the policy around who is eligible for SNAP when enrolled. So kudos to the advocacy team, incredible job, more to come, I know. And of course, none of the programmatic, none of the advocacy work would be as impactful without the investment from our corporate, foundational, and individual supporters. You'll see here off to the side, it says value aligned. This is our greatest priority in our philanthropic partnerships. We want to ensure that we are meeting the student and campus needs and staying true to our mission. So the philanthropic partnerships team does an excellent job at screening, vetting, and building networks and connections with corporations, individuals, and foundations that are meaningful to everybody. And that brings me to the dollars and cents of this conversation. Take a moment to check out the expense and revenue totals from last fiscal year. You might notice that we brought in more revenue than what we were spending last year. This is really critical. We want to make sure that we're setting ourselves up for success the next fiscal year. We want to do this until we're able to put ourselves out of business. So you'll note here also under that revenue category that we don't bring in government dollars. This is intentional. We've decided as a team that we want the agility and flexibility to move as needed, wherever the greatest need is in student basic needs and food security. And we need to make sure that all the dollars that are being committed are going into the service we provide, into our mission-driven work. So not a lot of government, no government dollars, I should say, in that category. I also want to share that we do prioritize keeping costs low, but we want to invest in our team. So we grow year over year with the ultimate goal, again, to put ourselves out of business while making sure we have the strong infrastructure to do so. This next slide has a whole bunch of gorgeous faces on there, so don't get jelly. I have to say big thank you to the board and the staff. The incredible work you've been doing over the last fiscal year is bananas. You have weathered transition, you have weathered questions, you have weathered curiosity and piloting programs and all kinds of things. I just want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. If you haven't been to our website anytime soon, please go check it out. Janelle, our director of comms, has been doing a ton of work alongside her teammate Jasmine to make sure that it's easy to navigate and you can access a ton of new information. You can surf around to the 600 plus partners that are listed on our map there. You can check out new resource guides and toolkits from the program team. You can see the advocacy efforts that have resulted in more equitable resources across those states. So go, check it out. And again, thank you to our board and staff. So before I give it back to you, Janelle, I am not allowed to leave this conversation without reminding folks that we run off the investments from our community. And investing in us is investing in the campus network. It's investing in the college student enrolled today and tomorrow. And so if you are able to consider becoming a monthly donor, that is one way to really support our work today, tomorrow, and in the long term. So thank you, Janelle, for letting me take a few moments to highlight your beautiful impact report.
Thank you, Jamie. Really excited to dive a little bit deeper into this impact report through our panel. You all have already met Jamie, obviously, and so would love to introduce our other panelists, Sydney Monaghan, our Director of Programs, and Zoe Duffield, our National Field Manager. I will kick it off to Sydney to start with your introduction.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Thank you all for joining us today. Hi, my name is Sydney Monaghan, pronouns she, her. I am the Director of Programs. I joined Swipe Out Hunger in March of this year. I'm fairly new, but I am feeling right at home.
Thanks, Sydney. Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Zoe Duffield, she, her pronouns as well. As mentioned before, I'm the National Field Manager here at Swipe Out Hunger. I'm a part of our amazing advocacy department, and I have been on staff for a little over a year and a half.
Thank you so much for introducing yourselves. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen right now so that you can see all of our panelists a little bit better. And I realized that I didn't introduce myself in the beginning, but I am Janelle. I'm our Director of Communications, I, she, her pronouns. I've been at Swipe Out Hunger for a little bit over a year and a half as well, and very excited to be moderating our panel today. Please feel free to put your questions in the Q&A, in the chat. We will make sure to get to them in our time today. And I'll kick it off with a couple of questions from me for the panelists. The first one being, I want to know what some of your big successes, the big highlights were from this past year for each of your departments. And if we could start with programs in Sydney, that would be amazing.
Thank you, thank you. Well, Jamie touched on it a little bit, but last year the KUFBA acquisition has to be our biggest highlight. The acquisition took us from roughly 140 partners to maybe 450 afterwards. And then now we're a little over 600, a lot over 600 partners. Our engagement grew exponentially, and our network began to build a community. So I think that was absolutely our biggest highlight from last year.
And would also love to hear from Zoe about some of the biggest highlights from advocacy.
Yeah, so we've really grown our student engagement for advocacy. Student-led movements are a central pillar for our advocacy work. We really strive to train students to be basic needs champions on their own campuses, and that's where we flourished, I would say, this past year. In states like Michigan, Florida, Pennsylvania, and New York, we worked with more teams of students than ever before. And not only that, we saw leaders emerge who were able to carry this work in a more sustainable and impactful way. For example, in Michigan, we had a team of students approach us to start a hunger-free campus campaign. On their own. They started on one campus at Michigan State University this time last year with a vision and a mission, and worked with us up until now, where we have reached over 7 campuses across the state and involved students, community partners, administrators, and legislators who've all helped us prepare for the introduction of the Hunger-Free Campus Bill this fall. And to be able to get that much accomplished is just a credit to the organization, motivation, and strength of the students in Michigan. They've built a momentum that echoes really across the entire country, with states like Louisiana, Massachusetts, and Pennsylvania, again, all passing hunger-free campus legislation and/or hunger-free campus appropriations just in this past year.
I don't want to follow Zoe, but here I am. I'm representing Renee Holt-Constanzano, who is our Director of Philanthropic Partnerships. And she sends her regards. She wasn't able to be here today. But when asked this question, she shared that the student need is rising. And one of the big successes and accomplishments from the Philanthropic Partnerships Department was being able to meet and exceed our increased goal this last fiscal year to raise funds, in-kind support in general. And this is from the community and supporters, many who are on the call today. So this is really, I should go back to that LG partnership example that I provided earlier. That was a really great example of the private partnership being solidified through our philanthropic partnerships department and then distributed out through our programs. And this is incredible because, again, the students are the ones that received the services on the back end through the hard work of our campus leaders, of course. And that was a really big win. We learned a lot from that process, but what a wonderful way for us to get much needed services out there.
Thanks, everyone. It's really amazing to be able to hear some of these big wins from all of our different departments and our major programs, advocacy, and partnerships. Next question is, what's something you're looking forward to or really excited about this upcoming year? And also, how can people listening get involved in your department's work? And would love for Zoe to kick us off with this.
Yeah. I would say our department is looking forward to building out our on-the-ground organizing capacity. This past spring, we were lucky enough to be able to hire an advocacy organizer, Julia Ruth, who is out there as we speak, getting onto campuses to be in person, organizing teams of students, and in general, engaging a broader audience for our anti-hunger advocacy work. And with this addition to our staff, we'll really be able to reach more states and more students. We're going to continue our hunger-free campus work campaigns in Louisiana and Michigan, like I mentioned before, as well as Maryland and Illinois. So if anyone here is in any of those states that I've mentioned over these two questions, and wants to get involved with us, you can definitely reach out to the advocacy team through our website, and our social media as well are the best avenues.
I guess I'll go ahead next. Okay, cool. So again, Sydney Monaghan from programs. When I think about what we're looking forward to in the upcoming year, well, we're just so grateful that we were able to turn a network into an actual community, that I know that that's what we're looking forward to the most. This year we created our affinity group, and we have the leadership council, and now we have launched the student leadership and advisory council, and so we're accepting applications. So also, if you want to get involved that way, and you know any students who want to become a part of that, that would be wonderful. But also, if you want to get involved at your local campus and find out volunteer opportunities for them, that would be amazing. And then as far as going into more community building, if you just want to share your expertise, that'd be great. We love when our campuses come to us and have something that is special and unique, and they want to share it. Our swipe session this month, which is September 26th, if you guys are interested, is on immigration status and SNAP benefits. And a gentleman from our leadership council, Anthony Burrows, is going to be leading it. And so come and get involved. And if you have something that you want to share your community garden or whatever it is that you want to share your expertise on, we would love it. But we are looking for ways to continue to build this community so that we don't feel alone in this work, because it's important work, but sometimes it feels alone. Sometimes you can feel alone doing it.
Absolutely, especially when campuses are understaffed and under-resourced already. Absolutely. Now, I know everybody is expecting me to say, well, you can get involved by giving us your money. And I am going to say that. But I am also going to say, I am extremely excited, and my interest is renewed by seeing the amount of foundations and corporations who are reaching out to us to see how they can help. It has been incredible. Renee last week was like, Jamie, I've got 6 meetings with corporations, and I'm not knocking on their door, they're knocking on ours. So again, across our country, people are recognizing that students are hungry, that this is an issue that is affecting the individual, the economy, the higher education realm extends significantly. So how do we shore up resources to make sure, well, again, we can put ourselves out of business? But the fact that corporations and foundations are reaching out to us is just incredible. So I'm really excited and hopeful in that arena. But I do want to point out that we're not seeing this need decrease. We thought, oh, the pandemic numbers are going to change, we're going to turn a corner. But the bottom line is the pandemic emergency services ending, the economic effects of the pandemic, including inflation and housing costs, the supply chain issues that persist, the decrease in food donations. Apologies for being the Debbie Downer, but the issue is not going away. So if you can share this work with others, if you can connect people to campuses and students, if you can give generously, because that really is going to create the impact. There's plenty of work to go around. So join the Swipe Out Hunger coalitions. We work with lots of different organizations. We'd be happy to plug you into the ones we know about as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think there's a lot of different ways to get involved in our work. And there's also a lot of things to look forward to in this upcoming year and get excited about. Again, feel free to continue putting your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A. I'm going to start pulling some questions from there. We have one question that is, what have you learned this past year that will inform your impact for this new year, or that might inform your impact for this upcoming year? Any big takeaways? Go ahead, Zoe.
Yeah, I can start off with that one. This isn't, I guess, something that we've only just learned in this past year. It's kind of something we've noticed all the time while we do our work, and it's that students are fired up and ready to go. They want to lead these movements. And we need to let them, it's not my place or, our director of advocacy, Rob's place or Julia's place to be the ones, leading the charge. It's the students. They're the ones on the ground that see the issue of food insecurity every day, and they're willing and ready to make an impact, to use their voice. And it's our job just to highlight it. That's something that we're excited to. I mentioned, now we can do that in a greater capacity with on the ground organizers like Julia. But that's something that I've been noticing a pattern. It's just so excited to keep boosting the student voice. That's so important to us.
Zoe, just to kind of like continue in the advocacy vein, I've been really, I guess, pleasantly surprised at who wants to be involved in this, right? It's getting the students at the center, but it's also like Texas just like introduced their own bill, and they just went not rogue in a bad way, but they were like, Texas was like, yeah, we got to address this now, and we're going to start at all levels. So people taking the solutions into their own hands, no matter where they're at, has been really exciting. I think that for me, the last year has been nothing but learning since it was my first year. So it's hard for me to pick just one. But I also have been really pleasantly surprised at the lack of ego in this space, right? That different organizations, different researchers, the campuses, the students, everybody is like, this is about the greater good. This is about the mission, which has been really beautiful.
If I can add anything to that, one thing I am taking away from this year is that while I agree with Zoe 100%, like students want to be heard and they are fired up, I want to say, while we are supporting the students, I also want to support campus admin who are working with us and respecting the fact that they are the expert in their work. And so we pride ourselves on not telling them, telling anyone what they need and saying like, no, here is $200. You need to buy more produce, when they're saying, no, we have enough produce. What we don't have is shelves, or, and so just trying to recognize that we are here to support and that they are the experts in the work that they're doing. So that's one thing that I'm taking away from this year.
Thanks all. I'm looking through the chat, and this might be a good question for Jamie. I'm curious if SWIPE plans to expand to addressing student housing issues over the next year.
Well, this is an excellent question. For me, housing and food are really intertwined. They're very difficult to separate because of a myriad of reasons, like the way that you live or the place that you live will dictate the kinds of food that you can safely store and consume. But I will share, I don't know the answer to this 100% just yet. The organization is undergoing our strategic planning work right now, and we hope to have a draft out to the community in March, April of next year, of 2024. And through that process, we're going to be engaging different community stakeholders, students, campus admin, foundations, individual donors, other coordinators, such as community benefit organizations. So anyone that works in the service of student resources, we want to engage with and learn a little bit more. So depending what we learn in that process, it may shape some of our programmatic and advocacy work going forward. But thank you for that question.
Yes, definitely very intertwined, housing and food security. Again, going through some of our questions, we have quite a few coming in. someone also asked, could you share about opportunities you had this year to connect with students and campus leaders in person? I think this would be a great question for Sydney and Zoe.
Absolutely. I will start off. This year we started what we call regional convenings. And so because we are a remote organization, we are spread out all over this great country. And so we are hosting them again this year. Our next one is in Philly, October 12th. And we bring students and we bring community organizations and we bring campuses together to convene, fellowship, have a great time, kind of do some brain trust thinking together, some think tank exercises. But we try to have them across the country where most of us are located. So I am in Houston. Mine will be in March. Stay tuned. We will make sure that we invite you all and let you know when it's coming. But that is one of the ways that we've been trying to get you all together in person.
Yeah, and I can speak for advocacy. Last year, we were able to engage a lot of students, admin, and partners through things like advocacy days or lobby days, where we bring students to the state capitol in their respective states and they can talk to legislators on behalf of the Hunger-Free Campus Bill and be able to connect that gap between, legislators don't often understand that there's even an issue of food insecurity going on college campuses. So we were able to bring students face to face with these legislators to tell their stories and provide that testimony while also, pressing them to act and ensuring that they prioritize this as an issue in the state level. And this year, beyond that, beyond like the state level kind of policy things, we're also doing a lot of just more like movement building and campaign work on the ground. Actually, tonight, I'll plug, we have our first kind of big training. This is in Michigan. Well, students will meet in person. We've never done this before. This is so exciting for the first time ever. And just learn what it's like to join us in this effort. They'll learn about the Hunger-Free Campus Bill. They'll learn about ways their campuses can get engaged, everything from, supporting pantries, providing testimony, just tabling on campus, joining us for awareness days. So yeah, lots of in-person opportunities coming up.
Very exciting. It's always a great time to be able to connect with folks in person. And as a follow-up question to that for Sydney, how can folks find out when and where the next convening happens? Would love to have the opportunity to connect with other campuses in and near the PNW.
Well, we make sure we try to send it out in our campus newsletters, but we also make sure that we invite those that are in that area. But I will make sure that we send them out as often as we can. I don't know what the PNW is, so if you can help me with that, I would love to be able to.
Pacific Northwest.
Okay, that helps me. I was like, I have no idea what that is, but that's great. The one that we're gonna have in California is happening in April or May of next year. So I
think what Kat is asking is we're just gonna bring her out here to Boise, right? And like hang with me. Or just have like an informal one? No.
I think so. No. But what we're going to try to do, what I'm hoping to do is to get them all organized and get them on a calendar so that they're all in a snapshot. But right now, because this is our first year doing them so spread out, we're kind of just like going with the available time that the partners have because we're hosting them at college campuses. For instance, the one in Philly is hosted at Temple University. So, but as we get them all together, I'll try to make sure that they are in one location so you can see the calendar, and then it'll be a part of our campus newsletter. So if you're not signed up for our campus newsletter, please do that, and then you can stay informed.
Perfect. Thank you, Sydney. We got more questions rolling in, and it looks like we have a good amount of time left, so keep the questions coming. Okay. Question from David at California State University. Is there a collaborative network that exists for colleges to share best practices to address food security? I'll toss it to you, Sydney.
Is there a network outside of ours to share best?
I think our network would be.
I was like, I don't know, but I think that we are a really great network. No. So I'm not familiar of a network outside of ours. I would love to, help find that, but we do a really great job of trying to share our best practices. Hence, we have the swipe sessions that we host every month. where people share their best practices, or they share, and then we meet with the leadership council or the BIPOC affinity group, or we just have, sometimes the convenings we have, and that's where we share best practices. But if there is one that outside of us, I can help you find it, but I'm not sure of it off the top of my head. But we're really good.
I'll also jump in and plug the feed. That is another way to connect with other campuses. And the programs team does a great job of running that. So feel free to, if you're a partner, you can join us on the feed. We'll share a link to that as well in the chat. Okay, got quite a few more questions here. Okay, what challenges or recommendations do you have for students wanting to engage with government officials? And I'll toss this over to Zoe.
Yeah, I started to mention that one of the biggest disconnects and challenges that we face is decision makers and legislators at the state level and at the federal level really do not understand that this is a need, which is extremely disappointing. What's more disappointing is that sometimes administrators on college campuses, the higher level admin also don't know this is an issue. We're working on ways to programs does a great job of this, but advocacy is working on ways to connect students from different campuses across their own state and also across the country to one another to learn about, successes and challenges and create a space where we can feed off of each other and learn. In some states, we have a lot of success when students are able to connect to other student groups and individuals and just show up in numbers. And other states, we utilize really strong partners in the area to help us connect that bridge and make that point across to legislators. So there's no perfect solution, unfortunately. It's all about kind of like learning and trying things out. And the good news is that we have, a lot of states that we've worked with before to look at. So that's what we plan on continuing to do.
Thank you, Zoe. Just trying to see to make sure I haven't missed any other questions. We have one here. This one might also be a good one for Sydney. How can you help students navigate larger private universities that want to start on-campus pantries when the administration might not necessarily be acknowledging the need?
That is a really great question. And while every campus is is special and is individualized, we would love to meet with those students. We have this really, really, really great staff. Her name is Sage, and she does really great with meeting with students and helping them understand what they would need to, the tools they need to advocate for themselves. And if need be, we will come and help kick down some doors too. But no, we would meet with the students and give them the support that they need. And I might not help them kick down the door, but I was serious. I will come to the campus and speak on their behalf if need be.
Thank you, Sydney. And as we're coming up on time, get your last questions in. Okay, next one is, have either departments noticed a difference between supporting the various generations of college students, such as adult learners versus traditional age students?
Oh, I would love this question. And I'm sure Jamie has a mouthful to go, but I'm gonna go first. Well, what we do know is that the traditional college student has changed. And so the fresh out of high school, 18-year-old, person at a straight on the college campus isn't the majority anymore. And so we are doing a really great job, if I do say so myself, at making sure that we address the student as a whole and as the person that they are growing into, whether they be parenting students or full-time working students. We make sure that we support that. And what I want to do is give major props to our campus partners, because they are also doing amazing at supporting the students in where they are, whether they be international students, immigrant students, students who are taking care of full households, or students who are the caretakers to their grandparents. They are doing amazing work at making sure that they are addressing the students where they are, as opposed to letting us believe that that is the minority and the 18-year-old fresh out of high school is the standard, because that's just not the case anymore. and then I'll let Jamie go ahead and
You hit exactly what I wanted to hit. And again, like champions on the campus, right? Whether it's work study students, it's full-time staff, like they've been making sure to build that relationship. We were just hearing from Miss Sandra down in Bipsy at Bossier Parish Community College outside of Shreveport in Louisiana this last Monday. And the heart and the connection that she has with those students is incredible. Those people make the difference for sure, regardless of the student's lifestyle background, connections, economics, anything.
Thanks, you two. We're gonna wrap up with our last two questions here. What are some things that pleasantly surprised you over the past year?
I'll say for advocacy, Jamie touched on this in the beginning as well. The amount of states that are red states, purple states, conservative states who have been able to get so much done when it comes to not just passing the Hunger Free Campus bill, but just basic needs work in their state has been surprising, but like very, very welcomed. You know, a lot of people think that hunger is a progressive issue, which is very silly when you think about it. Hunger doesn't discriminate. And so we were pleasantly surprised to see that, you know, that's how everyone else feels too. And that these are the states that are leading the way, that are passing the bill with funding, with appropriations, and are doing it, you know, right away. They're prioritizing it. You know, it's shocking to see that actually our progressive states are the ones that are a little bit behind, that are a little bit slower on the process. So that's something that I was surprised to see this past year.
For me, I was surprised to see that with all that we know and all the research and everything that's going on in the world, that there are people in the world still romanticizing student hunger. And so the idea that like it's a rite of passage that you go to college and survive on noodles, I was surprised to see that narrative still being, you know, doted out. So that was very surprising to me because I thought that we were past that, and we are not past it. So I was very surprised to learn that that there were still some people that, you know, that need to be educated on, you know, noodles being your meal for college is not a rite of passage.
I've been pleasantly surprised by a lot of things. Again, how many people are knocking on our door to see how they can help, the generosity of the community as a whole. I think that I'm pleasantly surprised this past year that so many people are picking up the battle flag, as it were, right? Zoe mentioned the students who are ready to go. They want to see change on their campus yesterday, to the staff and the admin who are ready to go in front of legislature and advocate on behalf of additional dollars. Every single person involved in this conversation has been a force to be reckoned with in a very cool way.
Amazing. Really great that there's been a lot of pleasant surprises from this past year. And we'll wrap things up with our final question, which is, what is the most rewarding part of your work within your department? I thought that would be a nice one to end on.
I think that's an amazing one. Jamie mentioned we met with one of our campus partners this past Monday, Miss Sandra. And no joke, by the time Miss Sandra got through bringing in her students and introducing them to us, we were all in tears. And each one of the students, from like veteran students to, you know, international students to parenting students, they all just jolted on how amazing having somewhere to go to get a snack and to get food. And some of them were athletes and they needed protein. By the time she was done, we were all crying. And so I think that it was just a reminder of like how important this work is and how life-changing it is. And so that's the most rewarding part to me.
Oh my gosh, there's so much I could say. I think for now, I'll highlight it's so rewarding to see when students take this advocacy work beyond just passing the hunger-free campus bill. We've had students come to us and want to work with us knowing that the hunger-free campus bill will not pass in their state for a very long time. And that's okay because they want to start this movement themselves and pass it off to the students that come after them, the underclassmen that are coming up and also looking for ways to get engaged. We've had students that aren't even focused on passing the bill, but just telling their stories, building a coalition of people that represent a diverse group who want to share their experience, break that stigma of food insecurity as a student. And that is really, really rewarding to see that people understand that this is a holistic movement, that there is the immediate need, there's our sustainable solutions, and there's also the movement as a whole.
I'm going to channel my inner Renee for this question. When Ellucian chose us as their partner, they put together, it's through this group called the Ubuntu group as a part of Ellucian. And they invited us to be a part of a couple of different conversations. And the amount of people in Ellucian who said, I didn't realize that I was food insecure in college. Oh my gosh, you're giving me, just like Dr. Crutchfield did earlier in this conversation, you gave me the definitions of like worrying about food at different points. And now I'm recognizing that that was me and it really did impact me and my success. And I want to be involved in that solution. And I'll get verklempt just thinking about it, right? Like all of us looking back on our experiences in college, many of us, I should say, and having that realization, regardless if it's in a corporation, if it's at a staff meeting, or if it's at a external meeting, it doesn't matter. When people start realizing like, oh my goodness, that was me, that was us. And here we are, and we aren't going to change anything unless we do something. So that's not, I don't have a department, but that's what I think Renee would say. I get to be everybody's department.
Thanks, Jamie. And thank you so much to our panelists for answering our audience's questions, sharing more about the work that each of your departments do and have been doing this past year. I'm going to quickly share my screen one last time just to thank everybody for joining us, for sticking around for the Q&A. Again, this will be recorded and shared out to folks. Thank you all so much for attending and for supporting our work. If you want to view our impact report, you can go ahead and do that at swipehunger.org/2023impact. I've also included all of the different ways you can stay connected with us, follow our work, support us here at Swipe Out Hunger, whether that's on social media, if you're a campus that wants to join our network, there's a link to do that as well, subscribing to our community newsletter, supporting us in all of the different ways, whether that's monthly giving, individual donations, becoming a corporate partner or funder, and visiting our website just to learn more about the work that we do. So wanted to thank you all again so much for joining us. Thanks for supporting Swipe Out Hunger and our network. And thank you for keeping our movement going and supporting us so that we can support students. So we're going to wrap it up here for today. Thank you all again for being here. And we're excited to talk to you all next time.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.